You've returned. I was beginning to fear that you too might have been lost. Did you find out what had happened down there at the facility? Something was down there? Living in the rift by the Kolto? It's horrible. The entire operation wasted by a disaster we could never in 1,000 years have foreseen. What has happened to the facility itself? Were there any survivors? Well, that's good to know. Good to know indeed. But what has happened to the facility? Was it damaged? No, that is terrible. That will set our work back years. It may even cost us the war. While I am glad that you were able to solve our problems, the cost may have ended up being much too high. But you have done your job and helped us in our time of need. And for that I thank you. Oh, and did you end up finding your star map? As you can see, by helping us, you helped yourself. Perhaps we can work together again in the future.
You'll never take me alive. So yes, I got arrested again. The work of a Jedi. It never seems to be done. Alright, now that that's out of the way, I want to go talk to this dude, Nico.
You think the Republic is trying to steal the Kolto, perhaps? An odd thing for the Republic to do, no?
And that is completed. Okay. I'm going to talk to these two.
How can I help? Am I so transparent? I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, considering our bond. Yes, there is something I would like to ask, if you'll permit it. Don't even start with that. You're the one who asked. I wasn't even going to say anything. But now that you've brought it up, I see I shouldn't have waited as long as I have. In our time together, I've been watching you. You are a true servant of the light. You follow the tenets of the Jedi Order despite the lure of the dark side. And with so little training, for me it has always been a constant battle. Don't you find it difficult at all? You make it seem so easy. Or is that only an illusion? And that's enough for you. If only it were as easy for me. If only the right path was always clear. I've always struggled for control over my passions. I've always been too quick to anger, too quick to get involved. My instructors constantly berated me for it. I've often dreamed that I might be able to confront Darth Malak myself. I dream I can use all this power I have to kill him and stop all the death and destruction. I just think about all the evil that the Sith have caused and I get so furious. Yet we are told that these feelings are the path to the dark side. Yes, of course, you're right. I have to remember my training. The Masters know well the corrupting influence of the dark side. Although it is hard for me to imagine. The very thought that I could become as evil as Malak, I just can't fathom it. It just doesn't seem possible. I mean, how could I... No. Wait, I'm sorry. I shouldn't even be asking you this. The Jedi teachings are clear. Who am I to question them? And even worse, who am I to try and make you question them? These are dangerous thoughts. The indulgence of a vain mind. Please, forget I ever mentioned this. Let's just return to our mission. How can I help? Then I suggest we move on.
Earth is good. He doesn't need to be talked to.
Yes. What is it? I was remembering Taris. It was a horrible place to have to live. At least in the lower cities where the non-humans tended to get relegated. Living for years in a place with no sun, living off the trash dropped from the upper levels, and a meager pay doing back-breaking labor. There was always the danger of rakuls coming up from the sewers, or more mundane predators living and working in the area. My family and I struggled each and every day to make something of our lives. But we could only go so far. Taxes from the corrupt government, more fees from the gangs controlling the streets, and whatever was left paying for what food and medical supplies we could afford. And of course, there was the constant bigotry and hate from the more affluent and human citizens, lording their wealth over us living below. Every once in a while, a rich human would come down through the lower levels with his droid entourage just to see how the wildlife lived, and laughed at the mockeries that were our successes. But I have come to meet many decent humans in my travels since those days. Indeed, some of the greatest people I have ever met are human. The Jedi who encouraged me to join the Order. The one who was with the group going to fight the Mandalorians. She was human. I am sorry. I am getting away from my point. If there even was one. Sometimes I curse the day my parents fled to Taris. But then again, if they had not, I would not be where I am today. Another story for another time. For now, we must continue our own epic. To save the galaxy, if we can. How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan? What is it you would like to speak to me about? Well, I mentioned before that my parents had fled to Taris. Perhaps I can tell you about that. In the early days of the Mandalorian War, there had been fighting closer to the Outer Rim worlds. Cathar was there, yes. My people had a great reputation as warriors, and that appealed to the Mandalore version of honor. They sought to test themselves against us, I think. Test themselves by bombing our world, slaughtering my people while they slept or while they ran. They swooped down from space across the world, firing at anything that moved. They used ships in space to destroy all orbital facilities and bombard the surface. We did resist, and in spite of their violent attack, we did stave them off for quite a while. But in the end, we were doomed. We were not members of the Republic. Cathar was beyond the edge of the Republic, in the Outer Rim. And besides, they could not have known. Our interstellar communications were the first things the Mandalores hit. All other short-range communicators were jammed. We were on our own. We knew what was coming. We had fought the Mandalorians in the First War against Exar Kun and the Sith. We knew there would be no mercy for us. The most we could do was pack the few of our people who survived onto what few ships remained, and send them off into space as fast as they could. Most did not make it. My parents carried me as a baby with them, and were lucky enough to escape. They fled as far as they were able, and eventually settled on Taris. They could stand running no further, I think. But Taris was a horrible choice. Dominated by humans, intolerant of other species, it made everyday life unnecessarily hard. My father turned to stimulants. He spent much of his time in local bars and dives. But we are warriors. It runs through our blood. And when he was on stims, he became foolish. He let his warrior nature get the best of him. So he would get intoxicated, and he would fight. And finally, one day, he would die. Killed by a man who provoked him into a fight and killed him like an animal. I am sorry. I cannot talk about this any longer right now. How may I be of assistance? What is it you would like to speak to me about? After my father died, my mother was left to support me alone. A single non-human woman, living in one of the worst, most violent slums on Taris. It was not easy for her. When my father was killed, it seemed that something in her began to die as well. She worked as hard as she was able. But over time, she began to waste away. I later learned that she was unable to get enough money to feed both of us, and had to start borrowing from the exchange. A band of cutthroats and smugglers. But even that was not enough. She hid what she was doing from me. She gave most of her food to me so that I would be strong, but she herself was suffering deeply from it. In the end, she could go on no longer, and collapsed at the cantina where she worked one day. She never recovered. There was nothing really that I could do for her. She left me no money, and no doctor would see her without being paid first. I sat by her bed for days as she lay there dying. I never want that to happen to someone I care about ever again. But there was still the money she had borrowed. She had never paid it back and made no provisions for her death. You must understand. The exchange is brutal. They care nothing for the life of a sentient being. They are the major suppliers of slaves on Taris.
What's interesting about this is, given her past, why did the Jedi decide to train her? Just saying, it's kind of amazed that she was trained at all.
They thought it would be appropriate that, with my mother owing them money, the debt should be passed on to me. And with no way to pay, they took me by force. You have no idea what it is like to be bound like a beast and treated as such. It was the worst time of my life. They treated me like livestock. They were waiting for a buyer to give them some credit for me when the Jedi came to fight the Mandalorians. The Jedi could not abide by what they saw there, and drove the exchange from the face of the world, freeing those of us imprisoned there. But the Jedi soon left to fight their war, and I was left with a dream. I swore that I would become a Jedi. As soon as I had enough money to do it, I bought passage on a freighter headed for Dantooine, and we both know what has happened since then. I am grateful to you for having given me the opportunity to fulfill my dream, rather than become what I hated. Someday, I may make it up to you, but for now, let us keep on the task at hand. How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan? What is it you would like to speak to me about? I have been doing well, I suppose. As well as I can. But I am more interested in you right now. Do not mistake me. It is just that, even though we have traveled together for a while, it seems I know next to nothing about you personally. We have been traveling together since Dantooine, but I know nothing of you before that. Would you humor me and tell me a little bit about yourself? Humility. Please, if you would, indulge me. Your job, your childhood, your life. I am sorry if I am making you uncomfortable. I will fully understand if you choose not to answer. I greatly appreciate your taking the time to talk to me. How did you come to be on Dantooine? Besides the obvious, of course. Terrace. It always seems to come back to Terrace for me. I am sorry. I get distracted. What did you do before that? A life in the army. Not my career of choice, though. We Cathar cannot seem to adjust to regimented organizations like the military. But I have heard that it appeals to males of your species. Fighting? Defending? That is what we as Jedi seem to be called upon to do. Perhaps we are not as unalike as I had previously thought. But again, I seem to be wasting your time with my carrying on. I apologize.
That was kind of interesting. Given what you just said about her father being a, fighter and warrior type people.
I have been watching you for some time. I wonder if you have noticed. I have been thinking of how far I had fallen, and how you exemplify the code of the Jedi. I find myself ashamed. But I have so little to show when I compare myself to you, and that makes my shame even worse. That I had so easily fallen to the dark side, that I could convince myself that by injuring my master, I became a great force of evil in the galaxy for my pride, my hubris, for the inner rage that all of my species feels. Sometimes I wish that I had not been born this way. I am sorry. I start to talk, thinking about how you stay strong to the path of virtue and justice, and I find myself whining again about my own inadequacies. The Council would be proud to see that you had learned your lessons so well. How may I be of assistance to you, Padawan? What is it you would like to speak to me about? Of course. If there is anything else, I am here to help.
Okay. Okay. Nothing new.
Got something on your mind, dude? No, I never did I? Elusive? Me elusive? Obviously, you've never tried to grab a Twi'lek dancing girl after drinking too much Onderan Willick juice. At any rate, I already told you why I wanted to leave. I'd seen everything I wanted to on Kashyyyk. Time to go. Time to move on. You live in an overgrown stump with a tax beating down your door, and you tell me how happy you would be. I was pleased just to have visitors. How many kilometer-high trees can you find an interest in before you figure you've had enough? I'd bet you can't be bothered to stay in one room for more than 15 minutes. And then there's all the critters in the Shadowlands. I'm just happy to be back in space, doing something new. Is that too much to ask? So I could. Well, not having a ship does tend to put a damper on that kind of idea, however. I'll admit, for all its flaws, Kashyyyk was home enough. But when you came along and I saw the destiny you had before you, I couldn't help but be intrigued. Interest? Well, I certainly don't have a vested interest. Call it more idle curiosity. Your destiny is rather unclear. In fact, everything about you that I can see is odd. Slightly off, as if my eyes are trying to trick me. Something is very dark about you. But, I'm sure you don't need to hear my ruminations. You've probably got enough nosy Jedi offering you one opinion after another to make you sick. Your future will come of its own accord, trust me. Sometimes navel-gazing at it doesn't get you anywhere. I wouldn't worry about it too much if I were you. You remind me a bit of Nomi. And that can't be all bad. Nomi Sunrider. She came late to the Force, just as you have, and became one of the greatest Jedi ever. Oh, fine, fine lass. Whether you'll follow the same path remains to be seen. For one thing, we'll never get anywhere if you stand around chatting up old men all day. Nonsense. Have I ever refused to help you when you asked? How confused can one person be anyway? One thing I will say is that this little escapade does remind me a bit of my adventuring days before the war. Those were exciting times. Or at least it would remind me of those times if we didn't stand around. What's keeping you? You're too young to be so talkative. Shoo! Shoo! Got something on your mind, do you? You defended him well enough. I wish we had time to look into matters more fully, but wishing is only useful for the young and idealistic. What's done is done. The Republic will likely appeal the matter eventually, and he'll be free. I just would like to know if that's best. Sunry was a good man once, and a good friend. I'll miss him. I don't want to talk about this anymore. My jaw aches. Got something on your mind? Oh, I get it. Let's play with the old man's head, is it? He's half senile. He'll forget I said anything. Wait, what was this about anyway?
Yeah, what do you want? I don't have as many strange stories like the last one I told you, but I do have a couple about me and the stuff I've done. In one battle above the world of Althir, my unit managed to defeat a force of Althiri 10 times our own size. That battle gained me command of an entire subsect of my clan. For 5 days, they had managed to hold off our forces, keeping us to the outer rings of their world, preventing us from attacking it directly. My task was to assault one of their flanks with a false attack. The Althiri would be drawn out by the units I had sent in. Once they had surrounded those units, the bulk of my forces would attack from the rear and defeat them in detail. Things didn't go as I had planned. I saw an opening, a mistake they had made in the disposition of their forces, and took it. While fending off our main force, they had let their fleet split in two. The center of their entire fleet was left exposed. I turned my forces and assaulted the center of their fleet, decimating them. This is a chance given to a warrior once or twice in a lifetime. The chance to change the course of history in a single act. Their slow, ponderous ship could not turn to face us without being overwhelmed. The command vessels were destroyed in seconds. Their ranks were thrown into chaos. It was amusing to watch the surviving ships scatter and flee. Several even tried to dive through the plane of the rings to escape us. They were shredded by the rings or crashed into rocks, or were destroyed by our forces as we pursued them. Warriors do not flee from a battle if they are losing. They fight to the end, as we did against your Jedi Revan. Another time, maybe, I'll tell you about how the war with the Republic went. For now, let's just get on with things. Is there something else you want to know? Your choice. I'm here if you want something done right. Yeah, what do you want? I think I'll tell you a bit about the recent war we had with the Republic. That might be more familiar to you. The one where Jedi Revan beat my people. We started by conquering worlds outside the Republic. We did it quietly so the Republic wouldn't really know what was going on until it was too late. When we finally did hit the Republic worlds, they had no idea we were coming. We came in through 3 invasion corridors in adjacent sectors. Anyone who put up a fight, or wouldn't fight, was crushed. We razed whole worlds trying to provoke the Republic into fighting us. I don't particularly enjoy wiping out worlds for its own sake, but the cowardly tactics the Republic defenders used left us little choice. Hiding in the homes of civilians, using families as shields, thinking we would not use appropriate force on their bases inside major cities. They underestimated our resolve, and what measures are acceptable in war. Those who cannot defend themselves should not be around those who can in battle. If annihilating a city is the kind of power it takes to overwhelm a Republic shield device, then that's what we did. Necessary force to destroy all opposition. I have no time or patience for cowards. They deserve to be hunted down and exterminated like vermin. There was no honor in wiping them out like rats. But some of your forces did redeem the Republic in our eyes. Especially later. Later, when Revan had joined the war. But we'll get back to that. We've wasted too much time already. Is there something else you want to know? Your choice. I'm here if you want something done right. Yeah, what do you want? We fought against the Republic forces for some time, over the course of many battles. At the start, they were not much of a threat to speak of. But once the Jedi Revan took charge, things began to turn against us. The Republic fleets began to use more than just basic tactics. Feints, counterattacks, mass deceptions. Revan was a genius on the field. Revan abandoned worlds of their defenders so that others would be too fortified to strike, and was willing to make sacrifices in order to advance goals. And in the end, Revan proved too much for us. The Sith had gone, retreated into their empire. They sealed themselves off from the rest of the galaxy. We thought it would be centuries before they'd come back. It's amazing that they could rebuild their fleet so fast. But at the time, it looked like the galaxy was in our grasp. I still remember that final battle in the skies above Malachor 5. The two fleets filling the space around it, outshining the stars. It was not your ships, or your men, or your vaunted fight for freedom that won this, the final battle of the war. It was by the actions of one person, the Jedi Revan, that you prevailed. His strategies and tactics defeated the best of us. Even Mandalore himself was taken aback by the ferocity of his attacks, the tenacity of his defenses, and the subtleties of his plans. He fought us to a standstill, and then began pushing back. We really didn't have a chance. It was what we had wanted all along, in a way. We wanted to fight the best, in a battle that would be remembered for centuries. And we did. And Revan won. I don't hold a grudge against Revan, and neither do any of my people. It was the greatest moment of my life to be in that battle. If Revan had been a Mandalorian, nothing in the galaxy would have stopped us. But wishing for the past to be different is useless. Better look to the future, as we should now. We'll talk more later, I think. Is there something else you want to know? Your choice. I'm here if you want something done right. Yeah, what do you want? Your choice. I'm here if you want something done right.
Okay, that's everything. I believe HK-47 is just going to...
Statement. HK-47 is ready to serve, Master. Affirmative. If you believe your skills are up to the task, Master, then I can certainly guide you through the process. Request. I only ask that you be oh so very careful, Master. I am too valuable and well-crafted to perish at the hands of ineptitude. Statement. As you wish, Master. The first stage is the simple one, and that is accessing my central control cluster. This may take a while. First, you will need to open 3 panels. But I need those circuits, Master. Please, Master, do not destroy my chips out of frustration. Calm yourself. I implore you. Supplication. Perhaps it would be best if you desisted your efforts for the moment, Master. This seems to be going nowhere. As you desire, Master. I cannot help but claim a small amount of relief. Signing off.
Do nothing. Ooh, I do like that though. normal. Okay. So we are good to go. To the next planet, which is